We're talking about these two Trinidadian companies, Agostini and Angostura. They've been in the news a lot recently, and Agostini even bought a Jamaican company earlier this year. So tell us what their numbers are looking like.
So, just to give context, they have not completed the acquisition as yet. So, Agostini is currently in, the process phase of completing the acquisition of Massey Distribution Jamaica. So, Massey Holdings Limited, listed on the JSE and TTSE, they are disposing of their interest in Massey Distribution Limited. However, there is a caveat because in this case, Massey Distribution has a healthcare distribution arm. Apart from its healthcare portfolio, its retail portfolio, it triggered a review by the Jamaican Fair Trade Commission because, just as a reminder, Agostini Limited acquired Health Brands Limited back in August 2023 and rebranded it to Aventa Jamaica Limited. So when there's an acquisition in the marketplace, the FTC, which is effectively like a watchdog, will evaluate to see if this acquisition, could distort market prices and also, impact consumers. So there has been a initial review. It's gone to the second stage now, and the companies in question, in this case being Massey and Agostini, are trying to find a solution that will give comfort to the Jamaican FTC. So it's not complete as yet. And that also brings me to the other acquisition, which in this case is of Prestige Holdings Limited. So those who know Prestige Holdings Limited is, we know Restaurants at Jamaica Limited here in Jamaica with KFC, Peace and so on as restaurant management companies. In Trinidad, there's a company called Prestige Holdings Limited that manages the KFC, Pizza Hut, Starbucks, TGI brands in Trinidad, and they also operate Starbucks in Guyana and TGI Fridays here in Jamaica. So mid-June, early July, mid-June, we saw the announcement that Agostini intended to acquire the entire shareholding of Prestige Holdings Limited and pay for the deal via the issuance of new shares. Now, the company's most recent quarterly report, this being Agostini, they indicated that the deal was extended to September 3, and the reason being is that they are still waiting to receive approval from the Trinidad and Tobago Fair Trade Commission as well. So that's just to kind of show you that, in context, despite apologies, it's now September 9, apologies, not September 3. So just to give context, that basically these two deals, are basically, at what we call a regulatory review phase, one in Jamaica, one in Trinidad, which impacts the closing or timing of the closing of these deals. So Massey Holdings Limited looking to consolidate and focus on more with specialized strengths, saying, hey, we're looking to dispose of Massey Distribution and, allow for, in this case, Caribbean Distribution Partners Limited, which has been renamed to Acado, which is Agostini's, joint venture with Goddard in Barbados to acquire Massey Distribution Jamaica and expand the business. So just as a further bit of context, Agostini's subsidiary Acado, one of their manufacturing businesses, which was called Vemco before the recent rebranding, they manufacture a lot of products. So some of the ketchup we see in supermarkets, that's manufactured out of Trinidad and Tobago. Similarly for the mayonnaise and other brands as well. So that's, context with Agostini.
So has the foreign exchange issue been affecting these companies?
So it depends on which area of the coin you're looking at. So for almost every Trinidad company, the foreign exchange issue affects you in one way or the other. So Massey Holdings, said in Trinidad, FX issues is impacting their motors business. For Prestige Holdings, they don't discuss that as much. They've been pushing more and more into overseas acquisitions. They acquired Collins Limited based in Barbados a couple of years ago. That's a company that manufactures DPH, a couple of the brands. They acquired a business in Curacao, Suriname recently. So they're not spoken as much about FX issues, but almost every other major Trinidad company has spoken about FX constraints. So AS Bradley, for example, when they acquired CPJ, they've been taking advances from CPJ to get access to some USD as well to contend with their own constraints. But with respect to Agostini and Massey, Agostini hasn't indicated any issues. Prestige mainly operated in Trinidad and Tobago, and for Massey, they are pushing more and more to achieve, I believe it is 70% or a particular target of 150% of their revenues coming out of Trinidad and Tobago, or distributing about, I think, 60 or 70% of their net profits in hard currency. So the beauty of the FX issues in Trinidad has forced companies to innovate and expand outside of their relative sphere of comfort.
Okay, so we've gone over Agostini. Let's look at I keep getting these two companies confused because
Angostura.
the names are so similar. Agostini and Angostura, yes.
Straight vibes, Kalila. And that's actually a reference to the brand of liquor associated with Vibes Cartel.
Right.
So Angostura has had such a confusing period in recent times. So for those who don't know, Angostura is one of the Caribbean's rum production companies. So similarly to how we have Renifer here in Jamaica, you have Demerara in Guyana. Angostura, produces their own brand of spirits. They have the bitters drinks in the supermarkets here in Jamaica as well. So their major shareholder, is the Trinidad state through their CLICO, shareholder that they manage in a sense. And with the recent change in government, we saw a situation back in June/July where the entire Angostura board resigned, which was quite an unfortunate thing to see, because in good corporate governance, you tend to kind of stagger the government appointments or change of board members, even change administration. That entire, what I would call, wipeout of the board, had its impact, because in the case of Angostura, what they do is that they will declare a dividend, but they make a dividend, form part of a resolution at AGM to be paid at a later date. Because of the recent, development, with the entire board resigning, the company could not pay a dividend out to shareholders, and they recently had a new board appointment, through a special shareholder meeting, and Gary Hunt, a former government minister, was appointed as the new chairman. But it's quite interesting to see, considering that, we're having elections here in Jamaica, we're having elections in Guyana, Trinidad elections back in April, that, a change in government can cause such a level of disruption to the operations of a company, and in this case, its governance level. Because one thing to also note is that First Citizens Financial Group Holdings Limited, that's the company that owns First Citizens Investment Services, First Citizens Bank. That's major. The largest shareholder is government as well, 60% or 65%. The holding company that owns those shares just got a new board recently, and there is supposed to be a special meeting to appoint some of those directors to the First Citizens Financial Group board as well. So, as I mentioned, just those connections with Angostura into First Citizens to kind of show that with the recent election changes, there are consequences that can impact listed companies depending on how their share ownership is connected to the government in some capacity. But when it comes down to Angostura, otherwise they've had a pretty good first half so far of 2025. Revenue is up, profit is up, but marginally up. Higher costs, especially with respect to tariffs, other costs in international markets. But when it comes down to the Straight Vibes brand, Richard Pandowi, who was the chairman of CPG, he's quite happy with the performance of the brand so far since they got it in late November/December. So, our cartels, release and return to the music landscape, and his growth in his business ventures. It's having a positive spin-off for different companies, because Angostura makes the rum, It's shipped to Jamaica. CPJ distributes it. People enjoy it and drink it. He makes money. Shareholders make money. It's just a perfect virtuous cycle.
Everybody happy. But thanks to those updates out of Trinidad, David.